the sound. That's better. Yes, it looks cozy. Let's talk external camera monitors. At some level of your filmmaking journey, you're realizing that your little LED screen on the camera is not big enough, not bright enough, it doesn't have all the tools that you might need. So you're starting to wonder, hey, couldn't I have one of these big screens that the pro filmmakers have on their cameras? And you're going on the web and start researching which monitor could serve you the best. So here are my thoughts on what should you be looking for when purchasing a monitor. Something I was stretching my mind about was, should it be 5-inch or 7-inch monitor? The cool thing is that I reached out to Desview and they hooked me up with actually two monitors, one 5-inch and the other 7-inch monitor. So after a few months I can give you a good perspective on which monitor is for you. A bigger 7-inch monitor or a smaller and more practical and compact 5-inch monitor. Okay, let's be honest for a second. Probably the first thing that you're also looking for when buying a monitor is the size. And then you will realize that there are other attributes that you have to take into account. But for now, let's focus on the size. There are two main sizes, 5 inches and 7 inches, which is measured diagonally to the screen. Initially, you might think, great, I'll get the bigger one. And yeah, the bigger screen you have, the better you can see your shot and the framing, especially if you're on a set with a crew and a few people have to gather around the screen to see the shot. But if you're traveling and you need to be mindful with your space, or if you're shooting events, concerts, and you have to hold the camera for extended period of time, you don't want your setup to be all that big and hefty. After 1 hour of holding the camera, you will realize even if your screen is a bit smaller, you will do just fine. But for stationary setups, for commercial-based projects or shooting with a crew, I would definitely prefer the bigger screen. I'm using a 7-inch monitor right now as we are talking to look at my pretty face. And that is indoors. But when it comes to shooting outdoors, the one criteria that you should be looking for is not so much the size, as much the brightness of the screen. What I was specifically in the hunt for was a monitor with over 1000 nits of brightness. I wasn't concerned that much with the size of it, but how it will perform in really bright outdoor situations when the sun is at its peak. You know that feeling when you're squeezing your eyes and trying to make shadow over the monitor to see what is actually there? Well, I wanted to escape exactly that feeling. Good thing that is when I shared what really concerned me with Desview, they told me that both the 5-inch monitor and the 7-inch are 2800 nits. Now, with different companies, these numbers may have slight difference to the actual brightness you're getting, but 2800 nits sounded more than enough. I have been using monitors that are less than 1000 nits and it really doesn't perform that great in bright situations and outdoors. So that was a huge upgrade. The one key factor for me is the brightness of the monitor. I would say anything beneath 1600 nits, it's not bright enough if you are shooting outdoors. One other key element for me was what are the output capabilities of the monitor. I'm using Lumix GH7, I was using GH5 a few months ago, and I can shoot up to 4K 120 FPS at 10-bit colors. But if the monitor is limited to outputting 30 Hz, it just won't be useful when shooting 60 FPS at 4K, let's say, which for me happens quite often, and there have been cases when I have to prioritize the FPS and not using a monitor, and it turns out that most of the time this gear that I have bought and it is supposed to help me will just stay in my backpack. So make sure that the monitor you're choosing can output 4K and in 60 Hz refresh rate. if you want to shoot 60 fps or more. Even when shooting 120 fps, the LED screen on the camera outputs the video in no more than 60 Hz. So if your external monitor outputs the same refresh rate, you will be all set if you want to shoot 120 fps or more. Also, here is something important: don't confuse the resolution of the screen with the output of the monitor. Most small external monitors' resolution is Full HD, but what it is capable to output defines if you will have signal when recording at 4K or more, or if it will go black and you won't be able to shoot 60 fps. All of these benefits, the size, the brightness, the refresh rate, are great, and having them creates one additional question: what is the battery city? Typically, the 5-inch monitors are powered with single NPF battery, and for the 7-inch monitors you have 2 battery slots, which means longer running time. The cool thing about this R7S3 monitor is that it automatically switches from one battery to the other. So basically, if you switch the batteries, you can run it forever. Desview has also the same R7 monitor, not with NPF, but a V-mount battery slot. But if you want a V-mount, why not just put a V-mount on your camera rig and just supply everything from there, right? And talking about battery, this 7-inch monitor have one really good feature. It has Type-C input. So if you're shooting indoors or stationary, you can plug in a Type-C charger and you're all set, and you don't need any batteries whatsoever. And after using these monitors for a while, I realized something else that I'm really happy that they have. Not just the battery input, but the battery output. The fact that they have DC outputs is priceless. You have a big chunk of a battery on them that you can easily use to power other gear as a transmitter, let's say. You have so much gear that needs power, and it feels good when companies think about how we can transfer energy and don't end up with one hefty piece of equipment, half of which is batteries. And finally, what really matters in a monitor is all the additional tools that it can provide you and that your camera doesn't have. A big one for me is those covers between all the instruments, waveforms, histograms, etc. Those covers for me is the most convenient and quick tool that is helping me understand how I have exposed the shot and is it overexposed or not. After all, we are visual artists, and when I can see it, I can understand it better. Just a quick and clear way to know how my footage is exposed. I don't need to think and to calculate. I prefer the simple and easy things. Another functional benefit that you should be looking for is grid lines and ratio on the monitor. But something else I wish that these two monitors had is 9:16 mark ratio, as everything is vertical these days, and it would be easier when shooting horizontally and you want to frame for vertical deliverables. But honestly, most of the times when I have to deliver something vertically, I will just shoot it vertically and turn the monitor. Which reminds me that the monitor has a screw on the side of it, so if you want to screw it on vertically, you can do that. Speaking about functional benefits, I cannot pass focus peaking and pinch zoom. It's a feature that every monitor should have, especially if you go with a smaller 5-inch monitor. Being able to zoom on the shot is such a relief when you're not sure if the shot is properly focused or if there is something that you don't want to capture in the shot. But something really functional on the 7-inch monitors that mostly I have seen is the fact that they have hotkeys on the top, and you can set them as shortcuts for whatever feature you need the most. I have set them for false colors, focus assist and grid lines. I find myself turning on these three the most, and instead of searching them in the menu, I could just turn them on with a click of a button. So that's definitely a plus for the 7-inch monitor. And of course, there are many other functional benefits of a monitor, but these are the ones that I came to conclusion that I really use and need the most. The fact is that you have to ask yourself what you need it for. Really, what you need it for, what are you shooting mostly? how will it benefit your filmmaking workflow? You can comment down below and I will try to give advice based on your comment what may be the best fit for you. Sure, bigger monitor would make your workflow better if you're working on a project with a crew or if you're recording in a studio, as me right now. But if you're traveling and shooting outdoors or shooting long-lasting events, will it be worth it to have huge monitor for the price of getting tired quicker, needing more space for the monitor and batteries, and overall have a hefty rig when all you really need is to be quick to point and shoot? Also important question, maybe what is your budget and what the monitor you're looking justifies the price. Compare it to other products and brands in the same industry. A great video that I watched before going into the deep hole of researching for a monitor was a video by George Berman comparing different brands of monitors. So ask yourself those questions and figure out what you really need. But the key factors for me were that I needed to be bright, I needed to output 4K at 60 FPS, and I needed to have additional tools that will help me with framing and exposing the shot. And I'm so thankful that Desview sent me these two monitors. They both are great and honestly I'm using them almost every day. Gear, it is endless and the topics on it are beyond endless. But hey, make sure to focus on your creativity and skills of turning ideas to reality. And gear won't be a factor, but just a bonus to what you do. So, thank you for watching this video, give it a thumbs up if it helped you in any way or if you enjoyed watching yet another gear video. And hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, I would highly appreciate it if you do so. And I will see you in the next one.